free and I found a computer. What should I do? Roll intro! Hello, my name is Phobia. Welcome to my channel, and welcome to my series. This is my first ever series where I'm going to be covering installation of Arch Linux, KDE, and Hyprland, and all the fun stuff that comes along with installing any one of those things. We're going to be doing this the hard way, aka through terminal. We're going to be doing this in a virtual environment, basically because Hyprland told me not to. They're very stern about it. Shut up, phone. Put you on silent later. They were stern about it. They said, don't try this. Hyprland is not meant for a virtual environment. Even if it can be run in one, don't do it. And I said, I'm doing it. Not only am I doing it, I'm doing it, and I'm going to show you how to do it as well. That way, there will be more people doing it. Now, disclaimer, there is a slight hiccup that I have not been able to quite figure out yet. Now, in my opinion, small hiccup, not a deal breaker. Essentially, as you probably saw in the intro, there is a second cursor that I, for the life of me, can't figure out how to get to go away. And it causes basically a tail. Kind of like what you'd see back on an old Windows XP system back, from the early 2000s when tails on mouse cursors were all the rave and all the cool kids were doing it. Me. I was cool kids. Besides that, though, it's basically flawless. There's obviously a few hiccups here and there that come with running something in a virtual environment. But like I said, that's all part of this tutorial, this whole series, and we're going to have fun going along through all these little nuances and getting a nice, smooth, beautiful experience. All in an environment we were told to stay out of. So, here I am, sitting on the archlinux.org page. We're on their download page. This is where you're going to find the ISO link, or the ISO file, rather, that we're going to use to install Arch Linux. So right here, underneath the BitTorrent, this is the recommended way to download. Now, when you hear torrent, you think bad, you think early 2000s, you think blue screen of death, you think letter in the mail from your ISP saying cease and desist. This is not this. This is the method that Arch has chosen to provide you, the consumer, the ISO file. There's nothing legal or wrong about torrenting itself when it's done in a way that covers all the bases. They are allowing you to download through their server a file that is free and open source. So we're going to go ahead and click the magnet link. And again, Arch Linux, the wiki especially, has never really been known to be the most pretty thing to look at. So it's very basic here. They don't give you much, but what you're going to do is you're going to click the Start Torrent button, and that's going to start the torrent. It's going to download the file. Right now, it is downloading the ISO file. Once it picks up the file, and my internet stops being slow, and I don't right-click on things, you will see the file start to download, and I am obviously wrong because it's not downloading. So, if this happens to you, I have come across this before, don't know why this happens, just go ahead and click Stop Torrent. Now go ahead and click Start Torrent. And as you see, we're downloading. We've got movement, total of 1.1 gigabytes. This is the most current ISO file, came out this month. And that's going to take me 4 minutes and 30 seconds roughly to download. That's going to vary depending on your internet, how fast or slow it may be. But that's what it is for me, and I will catch up with you when that is done. All right, and here we are. The file has finished downloading. Now, very important, first thing you do before you click anything is you save that file. So, just go ahead and figure out the location you want to save the file. I'm just going to save mine to my downloads folder. And once that has finished downloading, then you can feel safe to go ahead and stop the torrent. If you do that before you save the file, it just goes away and you have to re-download it. I've done that many times, even knowing that you have to do that. It's first-hand nature to just stop the torrent, but do it. Fight your urge. Fight it. Save your file. Save your life. Lower your stress. Grow older. Save your file. Alright, now that we have that saved, the fun begins. See you on the flip side here. And here's the fun part, where we actually get to start doing the thing. So, we are going to go ahead and right up here in Virtual Manager. Now, excuse me. I am going to assume that you already know your way kind of in and around installing, Virtual Manager, QEMU, getting the hypervisor going, It's a little bit more in depth than, say, like just installing VirtualBox, but it's not really too bad, especially like nowadays. I'm pretty sure most package managers package everything you need. Like it should just be installing QEMU and then Virtual Manager, and you should have everything you need bundled in with those two installs. Anyway, moving on from that, assuming you already have Virtual Manager installed, here we are at the home screen. I'm going to go ahead and create a new virtual machine. And that's going to pop up this window right here. And you're going to go ahead and just leave it right on local install. And it'll go ahead and let us select the ISO image that we downloaded. So from here, you're probably going to only see the default pool. Ignore that. Ignore what I have in here for now. None of that really matters. Right here is one I already added. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that, and I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that because those are old projects that I was working on. By the way, FoxArch. Proud of that, and nothing out about it yet, but you saw a little bit of it at the beginning. Now, the way it was running was purely because of being inside of a virtual environment. Bare bones, perfect. Once I'm done tweaking and getting that to where I'm ready, that's also going to be released out in the public, and I will have a GitHub link for it. But basically, FoxArch is my own little side project, my own little OS that I'm throwing together. Very similar to what we're doing here, but I've taken it a lot farther. And basically, have made an OS from scratch. All right, so I have a mosquito flying around me. That's going to be annoying. What we're going to do is I clicked the add down here. Now we're going to browse for our target path, and we're going to go to our downloads. And right here is the downloads folder that I downloaded the file in. And I'm assuming that you have the same thing going, that you downloaded the file directly into your downloads. So now that we have that selected, we're going to go ahead and click finish. And that's going to add a new pool where we can then go ahead and select our ISO image. Now choose volume. And it brings us back to here. Now you notice at the bottom, it didn't automatically detect our operating system. Arch Barebones doesn't really have a whole lot to it. That's very simple, so there's really not many distinguishing features about it. So from my experience, it doesn't normally pick it up. I always have to enter it in manually and then just kind of go ahead and click in Arch Linux there so it doesn't pop up an error when we go to try and move forward. So from here, this is really depending on your system and what you have. This default will be fine. You won't really be able to do anything too extensive on the system, but it should run just fine. I'm going to go ahead and raise this up just a little bit, just because my system can handle it. And I'm going to go ahead and give it 8 gigabytes of memory and 8 cores of my processor, and I will go ahead and click forward. Now, here, at this point, you need to think, what are you going to be doing with this? Are you going to be utilizing this as a normal use operating system? Is this just a test? Are you going to go ahead and then, once you're kind of used to this, put this on bare bones? Like, these thoughts really need to kind of be asked and put into question, and once you have your answers, it'll kind of tell you what you need for storage space here. For me, this is just a video where I'm kind of showcasing how to do this and install. Like, I'm not going to be using this as like an actual daily driver system. I don't plan on storing a lot on here. So I'm going to go ahead and just do 40 gigabytes. I have the space for it, and that will make sure that I don't even have to worry. Whatever I want to showcase here, I'm going to have the space for it. Now, I would recommend for bare minimum, no lower than the 20 gigabytes. I would recommend more on 25, especially since we're planning on installing Hyperland here in a little bit. So that's going to add a few extra packages that wouldn't normally be there. But we're starting off with KDE first, and KDE is a fairly program heavy environment. So I would say 25 would be the minimum. If you have the space, go ahead and do 40. It'll give you, like I said, you won't have to worry about it. You won't have to think about it. You'll be able to just do what you want to do, and you'll know that the space is there. Obviously, if you have it and you want to go beyond give it a terabyte, 3 terabytes, 4 terabytes, do a petabyte if you got it and you want to. I don't know why you would. That would be absolutely insane, but I would respect you, I guess, in a way. Yeah, a way. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward. I don't care what it's called. I'm just gonna go ahead and stick with the what I put here. You can go ahead and name it whatever you want to. Important thing here, click this little box. This way it allows us to customize the installation before it actually goes and starts the installation. Now click finish. And here we are with the customization screen. So very important to kind of, in a sense, get around a few issues installing and using Hyperland we're going to leave this on BIOS, and we're not going to try and utilize UEFI. It's possible, but not really. Uh, I don't really know too much about it. I didn't dig all that into it. I tried to mess around with it a little bit, and it was a little bit beyond me. From my understanding, is there's some issues with the way KVM and UEFI communicates, and I was unable to get the GPU 3D acceleration pass-through to work properly, which unfortunately is necessary for what we are trying to do. Otherwise, you won't be able to utilize Hyperland whatsoever. They really did not put any of their focus on virtual environment use whatsoever. Clearly stated on their wiki page. So go ahead and leave that right where it is. Honestly, I thought we had to change that, but look at that. Mine's right there. If yours is something different, then go ahead and match it up here like so. Then moving downward, again, I don't care what it's called. I'm going to go ahead and leave that. That's all fine and dandy there. That's all good and dandy. So I believe the very next thing that we should have to do is go down to your display server. We're going to go ahead and do a listen type of none. We're going to do OpenGL, and right here, this option that it auto selects is what you want. Now, excuse me, it is saying that it only works with Verdio graphics and with 3D acceleration enabled. So to do that, we're going to come down here to the video Verdio, Virtuo, whatever you wish to use as your flavor. Then go ahead and click apply. And then if you pop back here and display spice, you notice that it no longer displays that. So now 3D acceleration and GPU pass-through is working properly, and we can go ahead and click begin installation. This is going to pop up our little window here. Now, I'm going to go ahead, since I do not require the help with the speech screen reader, I'm going to just use the regular Arch install. I'm going to click enter, and now we're going to wait for it to do its thing, and it's going to eventually load us up into a terminal where we can do some command entering. And if you notice me looking over to my right here, I'm referencing the Arch wiki. Let me pull that over real quick. So I'm referencing the Arch wiki here just because there's a lot to this, and I don't necessarily remember all the syntax step by step the whole way through. So if you see me looking over here, it's because I'm referencing to make sure that my syntax is correctly and I am not giving you incorrect information. Now, that being said, here we are at the terminal that I promised would eventually get to us. So, now I'm a liar. I apologize. As you see, we can type at the terminal now once I actually click back on the page. So, the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we have internet access. And being that we're doing this in a virtual environment, all we should have to do is ping archlinux.org, and we should start receiving pings. We should see that our connection is just fine because we are connected through the NAT network, through the virtual network. Now, if you are doing this and trying to follow along on bare bones for whatever reason, I got your back. say you're not on a wired and you want to connect to your wireless network. Go ahead, and this is VM people. Just pause, take a sip of coffee, do what you gotta do. Just hold on one quick sec. Bare bones people, you will hit WICTL and hit enter, and that will bring you into this screen. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to do a station list. Now, I'm in a virtual environment. I do not have a Wi-Fi adapter hooked into this virtual environment, so there is nothing to show here. On your screen, if you're doing this on bare bones, you should see your Wi-Fi device listed here. Normally it's WLAN 0, I think, or WLO1. I'm having a bit of a brain fart, but one of those. I believe WLAN 0 is the more common one. So whatever the device name is, I'm pointing to the screen like you can see, and I can't even use my cursor because we're in a TTY. First series ever. Welcome to it, folks. So what you will do is you will type in station, the name of your Wi-Fi device, so WLAN 0, and then you're going to do a scan. Now again, I do not have a device, so it's going to give me an error. That should have ran and given you no output. You should have seen it run, got no error, no output. That's normal, that's what you want. In the background, it scanned and detected Wi-Fi networks in your area, anything close enough for you to connect to, it picked up. So now what you do is you say station, WLAN 0, connect, and then whatever the name of your wireless network is, you type it here. And then once you got that all entered, you hit enter. Again, I don't have a device. I get an error message. You should get a line asking for the passphrase for your wireless network. Go ahead and enter in that passphrase now and click enter. Assuming you entered that in correctly, you should now be connected to your wireless network. And we can go ahead and exit out. Now, everybody back on the same page. Welcome back, VM people. We're back at it. Now, I want everybody to go ahead, not type in IP. I want you to type in ping archlinux.org and see if you get a ping. If you get response back, you're all good and dandy. Then we can go ahead and Control C to stop that. Now at this point, you're connected to the internet. Everything is good and dandy. It is time to continue on. You're going to do so by doing a time, date, control, and you're going to want to set your time zone. Time zone, not time zone. And you're going to set your country, / and now your region. For me, that's going to be New York in America. Oops. And the Y on New York needs to be capitalized as well. Now, once you have your time zone specified here, go ahead and click enter. That's going to load the time zone and keep everything on track and in sync for our locale. Now, do an fdisk-L. What this is going to do is this is going to list the hard drives that are available for you to install on. Now, if you're following along in this virtual environment, we should have a loop, and then we should have our one hard disk, our VDA. Now, if you're following along on bare bones, I take no responsibility for hard drives that are written over. This is all on you. Make sure you are installing this on the correct drive, and you're not going to ruin another operating system by doing this. Usually, I recommend that if you're doing this on bare bones and you have multiple drives, unhook every drive that you do not want to install on from power. Leave just the drive you want to install on hooked up, and there's no way you can get the wrong drive. Now, continuing on, we're going to go ahead and hit fdisk /dev/ the name of our drive. So VDA. Now hit enter. And that will bring us to this menu. Now we should be on a clean drive. There should be nothing in there, no partitions, nothing. So what we're going to go ahead and do is hit N, and that's going to bring up our menu here. We're going to stick with primary, and 1 is what we want for the first one. Obviously, number 1 is number 1, and go ahead and just hit enter through the first sector. Now when the last sector comes up, go ahead and hit plus, and then we're going to go ahead and do 1 gigabyte. Now go ahead and hit enter. That created our first partition. Now, that created the partition as a Linux type partition. We want to go ahead and hit T, hit enter, and then we want to go with EF and hit enter again. And what that's going to do is that's going to set us to an EFI partition instead of a basic Linux partition. And we need that as that's going to be our boot partition. So now we're going to go ahead and hit N again. We're going to create another primary partition. This is going to be partition number 2. We're going to go ahead and hit enter. First sector, hit enter again. Now last sector, we're going to do plus. Did I screw up last time? No, I did not. We're good. We're going to do plus 4 gigabytes here. Sorry, I thought I did that last step incorrectly, but I did not. We're good to go. Hit enter. Now, we're going to do the same thing again. We need to change the partition type. So we're going to go ahead and hit T, hit enter. Now we want the partition number 2. So go ahead and hit enter. Now for this, just type in swap and hit enter again. And now it has changed that partition type to the Linux swap partition. Now for the final partition that we need, we're going to go ahead and hit N, primary. And for this one, you can just hit enter all the way through. And no need to change the type. We want this to stay as a Linux type partition. So once you have your 3 partition types, go ahead and hit W and hit enter. That's going to write your partition table you just created to your drive. Now, moving on, we are going to make the file systems for each one of our partitions. So go ahead and do mkfs.ext4, and that's going to be /dev/SDA3. This is the Linux file partition that we made, the root partition. So we're going to go ahead and hit enter. Sorry, I did a typo there. You want to do VDA3. See, this is why you make sure that you're on the right drive, because if I had another drive hooked up right there, that would have overwritten that. So make sure that things are typed in correctly. All right, now we are set there. That is set as ext4 Linux file system. Next, we are going to mk swap, and that's going to be /dev/VDA2. Go ahead and hit enter. Now, we're going to go ahead and make file system again, mkfs.fat this time, space /F space 32. And then that's going to be under /dev/VDA1. And then go ahead and hit enter. And that made our EFE partition type FAT. Now to mount our partitions. So to do that, go ahead and type in mount /dev/VDA3, and that's going to be our root partition, and we're going to mount that right to /MNT. Click enter, then go ahead and do mount. Then we're going to do -- make directory mkdir, and that's going to be /dev/VDA1, and that's going to go under /MNT/boot. Yes, boot. Then go ahead and hit enter when you have that all typed out. Now for our swap partition, we're going to swap on our /dev/VDA2 partition. Hit enter. Now we have everything mounted. It is time for the actual installation of Arch. Now, excuse me for 1 second as I bring up the next portion, because this is going to be a bit of a long one here. So you're going to go ahead and type in packstrap once I click on the right page again. So you're going to type in packstrap. That's going to be a -K underneath /mount, where we have our root partition. You're going to want to do the base Linux as well as Linux for the kernel. And then we're going to do Linux firmware. Then also you want SOF-firmware, which is for your audio. And then you're going to go ahead and do Vim, Nano. That way we have multiple editors installed. You want Hitty, Alacrity as well. You want Network Manager. You want Network Manager Applet, typed out just as I did there. You want the man database, man pages, which are the manual pages for all the different tools that we're going to be using and installing. You want those. Those are your friends, as well as the text info pages for them. Once you have all of that typed out, and make sure you have everything typed out correctly, and I make sure I did not miss anything, we are good. Go ahead and hit enter. Now this is going to take a minute to install, so just sit back, watch it work, grab a cup of coffee, take a bathroom break, do what you gotta do, and we'll be right back when it's done. So, our install is done. Now we need to configure the system, and to start with that, we're going to go ahead and generate our fstab, which is as simple as gen fstab -u/mount, and we're going to do that to /mount/etc/fstab, and go ahead and hit enter. After that's done, we're going to arch chroot, and we're going to do that into our main partition. From here, we're going to type in ln-fs. We're going to do /user/share zone info. And here we're going to state the time zone, region, and country that we specified earlier. So for me, that's America /new new underscore York. Then we go ahead and hit, nope, sorry, /etc. We want to tell this where to set this to. And this is going to be under etc local time. Now go ahead and hit enter. And from here, we can set the hardware clock, which is hardware clock --TOHC. Hit enter. All right. Now we need to go ahead and open up whichever editor you prefer, whether it be Vim or Nano. I'm going to use Vim. We want to open up /etc/locale.gen. And we want to scroll down. And for us, here where I be, we would be using ENUSUTF-8. Whatever it is for your area, go ahead and set it. I'm going to set it to that. And then from there, we can go ahead and run our locale-gen command, and that will generate that file for us. Now, after that, we need to go ahead and create /etc/hostname file. And in there, we want to basically put the name of our device, what it will show up as on the network to other devices. For me, I'm just going to go ahead and do Arch Linux. You can do whatever you prefer there. Name it whatever you want. You can get creative, silly. Do you. And from there, that's basically it. We are going to go ahead and set a password for our root user. Make sure that this is a good, strong password. And also, make sure you do not forget it. Now, that's basically Arch installed. But if we were to go ahead and restart right now and try and get into our system, we're going to be very disappointed because it's not going to boot. We got no way to boot into our system. So to do that, we're going to install grub. Now, in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and forget to click on the virtual machine again. And then we're going to do pacman -S, and we're just going to install grub. Run that. Let that install the packages needed. And then we're going to do grub -install. You're going to run that on /dev/VDA. And go ahead and run it. Installation finished, no errors reported, just what we want to see. Now go ahead and run grub make config, and you want to pass that with -o. So then we're going to do /boot /grub /grub.cfg. Enter that, and that's going to populate our grub for us. And that we should probably set up sudo privileges for our user. So for that, do pacman -S and pass sudo along for that. Go ahead and install those packages. All right, sudo is installed. So now we're going to do a user add -m and add your user. Whatever you want to name yourself, go ahead and name it. I'm going to be Tim today. Go ahead and create Tim. Now we need to give Tim a password. And for that, just type in password and then the user you just created. So for me, Tim. Now it's going to ask me for a password. I'm going to enter in a super strong password here. You should enter in something very, very memorable and very strong as well. Okay, and that is the user created. Now we need to go ahead and give this user some privileges. So go ahead and type in usermod -a capital G, and then we want to give this user permission for wheel, audio, video, and storage. And then go ahead and pass in the username you just created. Okay. Now we're going to type in editor equals, I'm going to use Vim. If you prefer Nano, type that in there instead. And then we want to do vi sudo. And don't mind my dyslexia. Here we go. Now we're going to scroll down. Scroll until we see root. Now we want to enter in the user we just created. Then we want to set that to all equals all, parentheses, all. Then we go ahead, save, and quit that file. Now our user has sudo privileges. How exciting! Next, we need a desktop environment. Now, for this, you can do whatever you want. I personally prefer KDE. That is my favorite desktop environment, but we're going to go ahead and install Xorg. Then we want Plasma. We want Plasma Workspace. Oh my god, Workspace. And then we want KDE application. Go ahead and install those. Now, personally, I just stick with the default for all these. So I just go ahead and hit enter. This is just asking which version of these packages that you want to install. Default's usually the best option to go with, especially since we are going to be heavily modifying and basically creating the system from scratch ourselves anyways. So some of these we're going to end up adding more to, using something completely different. So this will give us what we need without overloading us with packages that we don't and will not end up using. Now this is going to take a good minute. Don't be surprised if on slower internet, if this takes about 45 minutes or so to complete downloading and installing. KDE is a very extensive desktop environment, and it has a lot of cool programs that we are going to actually utilize both on KDE and on Hyperland. So stick with us, stand by, and once this is all done and ready to go, we will come back and finish up this installation here. All right, catch up with you when it's done. That has finished, so just a couple more small steps before we get into our system here. We're going to do a system CTL, and we want to enable sddm.service. That way, when we go and reboot, we will be greeted with the desktop manager. And then we want to also enable our network manager, which for that, actually, put on capital M. Go ahead and start that. Now, it is yes. Now, exciting part, we exit. Then we need to unmount. So we do umount -capital R and then R/mount. All right. And now we can reboot. And this will reboot our system. And here we are. We have our Arch Linux in our grub menu. Go ahead and enter that. Go ahead and throw this in full screen here. All right. Now, we don't have Hyperland yet. KDE is not affected with the double mouse issue. So here we should be able to just log in and have a seamlessly running instance of Arch Linux and KDE. So we can go ahead and go through this like normal, blah, 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 all the normal blah, blah, blah stuff. I love how they just disable it by default. So you do that, Windows. And now here we are. This is Arch. This is KDE. From here on, if you didn't want to bother with any more customization, or if you didn't want to bother with Hyperland, you could just use this as is. This is a fully set up working instance of Arch KDE. And go ahead and real quick, you do not have to do this if you don't want to, but if you do want to, you can. I'm going to go ahead and install one package real quick called Fast Fetch. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sudo, and I want to, oops, we need to sudo vim our .bash rc file. Then I'm going to come down here at the bottom. And again, this is completely optional. You will see what I'm doing here in just a second. Fast fetch. We're going to save and exit this. We're going to source our .bash rc file here. And now, as you can see, actually, better show you. From now on, when I open up a terminal, it shows me information about my system on the terminal. So here's my username. I'm Tim. I'm on Arch Linux. This is the host name that we set. As you can see, this is indeed Arch Linux x86-64. We are running on a KVM QEMU standard Linux kernel. We've been up for a total of 2 minutes. We have a total of 1,261 packages on the system, making it run. Not too shabby. We're running bash for our shell. This is our resolution at the moment, our desktop environment, our window manager, and our theme, icons, It has our CPU here, the GPU, all the information that you could need. So there is that. If you want that, go ahead and add it. Again, optional. If you don't, then at least you know something cool that you can do. Now, before we wrap up this episode here, I do want to have you install 2 more packages real quick. This won't take too long, but we're going to go ahead and do UFW, and also we want fail to ban. Oops, and we actually need to add pacman-s there to actually pull those packages. Go ahead and install them. And I'm sorry, we actually want one more package, I believe. Or does this come with UFW? Nope. Oh, actually, it comes with the base. We already have it. Never mind. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and do a sudo systemctl. And we want to do enable UFW and fail to ban. And then we're going to go ahead and also start our UFW. UFW is our firewall, our uncomplicated firewall. And fail to ban is a service that's going to run for us and ban any IP addresses that try and brute force their way in and fail too many times to log in. So fail to ban does need a slight bit of configuration. All we're going to do is do a sudo vim /etc/fail to ban. Then we're going to do /jail. And then we want to do .conf. Go ahead and hit enter. Now from here, we want to scroll down. Excuse me. Now I like to adjust the ban time and the find time. You don't have to. The standards are perfectly fine. I like to add another. I like to add another 5 minutes on there. I like to add 15 for the ban time. Oh, sorry. My bad. I actually like to ban people for 10 years. Personally, you can do days, months, years. I guess you can do weeks as well. However you want. You can leave it, like I said, stock. Find time, I'm going to put that at the 15 minutes. That means if you fail 5 tries to log in within 15 minutes, your IP address is banned for 10 years. Now, like I said, you can leave this at 10 minutes, you can do a day, you can do a week. The most important thing here is make sure you don't get yourself locked out if you're trying to SSH into this. You can get yourself banned, hence the name of the service. So only other thing we need to do now is we're going to scroll down until we find jails. And here, under SSHD, we want to go ahead and move this down a space. We want to type in enabled equals true. Then we want to go ahead and mode uncomment here and just leave it as normal. And you can go ahead and save and quit here. And then we're going to do a sudo system controls or systemctl. We want to restart fail to ban. And now we're going to just come back here and we're just going to check the status real quick. Fail to ban is running. Going to run sudo fail to ban -client. Then we're going to check the status here as well. And as you can see, we have one jail up and running, and that jail is SSHD. And that will keep us safe from anyone trying to brute force their way in via SSH. And on that note, this is where we're going to leave this episode. We'll do some more customization of KDE and get things fine-tuned exactly the way we like it. That way we have a nice, strong starting point before we start to get in and mess around with Hyperland. Exciting stuff. But thank you. I appreciate you sticking around, and I hope you stick around and watch future episodes. And if you like me, hit that like button, give a thumbs up, the subscribe button. I'm not sure which way I'm pointing. I'm new at this. The buttons are down there. Hit them. Give me some love. Till next time, folks. Take it easy.